Hey, hello, folks. Today's episode is brought to you by Manakora honey. I have trouble pronouncing it. It shouldn't be a surprise. But the bottom line is this is an amazing honey. Now, when I say the word honey to you, you probably think about that stuff that comes in like the little panda bottle at the supermarket. And maybe it's from
panda?
Yeah, it's a panda, right?
Bear or whatever it is. It doesn't
Bears
matter.
Are associated with honey.
A lot of times they don't even know where that honey comes from. But aside from that, this is a completely different species of honey. Manakora makes Manuka honey. It is a super honey that comes from New Zealand. There is a specific tree, the Manuka tea tree, and it's the nectar on this tree in which the bees make the honey from. Now, I've always been aware that, different like beekeepers will wait for certain plants and this and that or weeds to come or flowers so that their honey has a specific taste. I've never tasted anything like this honey before. You can use the honey just in a normal way. Use it on toast or on in your tea or something like that. However, not only does this honey sort of have the consistency of caramel and sort of almost like a caramel taste, it also has a high preponderance of this natural bacteria called MGO. I used to know what the name of it was, what that stands for. But it has a tremendous optimal immune impact and digestive health. Extremely healthy for you. And the 850 plus, that's 850 plus MGO honey, like I say, has this creamy caramel texture. It melts in your mouth. It really is unlike anything you have ever experienced before. Put it on your cereal, whatever it is. My kids love it. It's amazing. You don't need to use nearly as much as you would with regular honey because it is like so dense and it's delicious. If you head to manakora.com/majority right now, or once you get there, use the code majority, you'll automatically get an extra free pack of 850 plus honey sticks with your order. It's a $15 value. The extra pack of compostable honey sticks, perfect for your kids' lunch or put in your bag. You need a little pick-me-up when you go. You can bring them when you're traveling. They're fantastic. That is Manukora, Manukora, manukora.com/majority, or use the code majority to get a free pack of compostable honey sticks with your order. I'm telling you, you have not seen or tasted honey like this before. Indulge. Try some honey with superpowers from Manakora. Now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live. Steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Murtaza Hussain, reporter at the Intercept, focusing on national security and foreign policy, on the secret Pakistan cable documents. I should say the secret Pakistan cable, which documents U.S. pressure to remove former PM Imran Khan. Also on the program today, 4 times a charm. Donald Trump indicted on 13 charges, trying to overturn the Georgia election loss. Meanwhile, 18 Trump allies will join him at the defendant's table, unless, of course, they don't want to join him in jail. Montana judge rules in favor of Montana youth's climate case, which is going to force Montana to consider climate change when it assesses environmental permits. Federal judge blocks conservative challenge to Biden's forgiveness of debt for 800,000 borrowers. That's the smaller program. The AMPTP floats another offer that it supposedly made to the WGA, hoping to undermine their solidarity. Meanwhile, in Chicago, SEIU healthcare workers win their 11-day strike. Death toll in Hawaii wildfires hits 99, with hundreds still missing. And dropping in the polls, DeSantis cucks and begs Disney to drop its lawsuit versus Florida.
Whoopsie.
Let's let bygones be bygones.
Hey guys, I'm trying to run for president. Okay, you guys take it easy.
You get it.
Russia attacks Western Ukraine with missiles, killing at least 3. New data shows unhoused numbers up by 11% from 2022, a record rate of increase. And another new study shows that over 70% of U.S. household COVID spread, which represented about 16% of all COVID spread, was started with children. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is, says Emma Vigland.
Says Newsday Tuesday.
It is Newsday Tuesday.
Yes.
With that said, we also
Yeah.
and also an interview day.
Also, yeah, true, actually. Breaking format slightly, but I thought that kids just didn't get COVID and didn't spread it.
Send them back. That teachers union, they're really fear-mongered by Fauci. So get these kids back in school and get them learning.
The household spread, we should be clear, which again represents, as far as I can tell from these papers, 16% of all the spread that we saw was initiated by children. 70% of that was initiated by, and particularly young children, maybe ones who, let's think about it, wouldn't have worn masks as competently as maybe older kids, would have been probably confined indoors in a much more extensive way. This is all... None of these things are conclusive. It's done by having hundreds of thousands of people having temperature sensors on their phones and assessing, who gets a fever first. But this is what the data suggests by the researchers, who seem to have really have a huge number of people involved in this research. But we'll get to that later. Donald Trump indicted again. This was, 6 months out. This was the one that everybody was sort of waiting for, because it could very well be the most threatening to Donald Trump. It feels like Jack Smith was able to build a case that I think people thought didn't realize would be as strong on the federal level. But this is a racketeering, a RICO case that involves, like I said, I guess a total of 19 people?
Yeah, 18
including
allies of Trump plus him. And then there's 30 extra unnamed co-conspirators and unindicted ones. But the ones that are named are Giuliani, Sidney
she's
Powell,
going to go through
Jeff
this
Clark.
in just a second.
Yeah.
But I just want to remind people what you need to bring a RICO case. And I should just say that the DA in this, who brought this case, Fannie Willis, she was also the DA. I don't know if people will remember this. I do. In 2015, and maybe it was in 2014, through those 2 years, there was a big scandal with a Georgia public school. This was in the heart of the corporate education reform movement, where high stakes testing for kids became the sort of law of the land, if you will. And it created a tremendous amount of pressure on schools to deliver high test scores. And it was inevitable that there was going to be a cheating when you make this that important. And she brought the case, a racketeering case that 11 of whom Atlanta Public Schools educators were convicted of racketeering charges. And I say that only because of the ding-dongs on the right who are going to be talking about like, well, how can it be illegal to call somebody or whatever it is that they're going to say? It's not illegal to do any of the individual things that these teachers did in that case 7 or 8 years ago. But when people conspire to pursue a single goal and then do things in concert in pursuit of that goal that is illegal, those become the foundations of a RICO case.
And Rudy Giuliani, pretty familiar with the foundations of RICO cases,
Exactly.
given how he got famous in the 80s by prosecuting mob families under that very statute in New York. So full circle.
Some of the counts stem from false claims of election fraud that Giuliani and 2 other Trump lawyers, Cheeley and Ray Smith, made at legislative hearings in December 2020. You'll recall that. Their testimony was false. And because they were doing that in concert with these other people to bring about an overturning of the Georgia election, that becomes part of the RICO case. Another batch of charges was a plan that Trump supporters carried out to vote for a false slate of pro-Trump electors and send a forged document to Congress. A third group of charges accuses Trump allies of conspiring to steal voter data and tamper with voting equipment at the elections office in Coffee County, Georgia, and some of the defendants were charged in connection with a scheme to harass and intimidate an election worker. Ruby Friedman, we're going to have more on that later in the program. And so that's where it is. Here is a clip of Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis announcing that those indictments.
Specifically, the indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Charles Eastman, Mark Randall Meadows, John Cheeseborough, Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Lynn Ellis, Ray Stallings Smith III, Robert David Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, David James Schaefer, Sean Micah Tresher Steele, Stephen Cliffgard Lee, Harrison William Prescott Floyd, Travion C. Cootie, Sydney Catherine Powell, Kathleen Austin Latham, Scott Graham Hall, and Misty Hampton, also known as Emily Misty Hayes. Every individual charged in the indictment is charged with 1 count of violating Georgia's Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act through participation in a criminal enterprise in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to accomplish the illegal goal of allowing Donald J. Trump to seize the presidential term of office beginning on January 20th, 21.
I mean, there it is. This is this again, she prosecuted this RICO case with the 11 educators. I guess so 12 educators, 11 I think got convicted. All of them were involved in it, basically an enterprise with one goal. That was to overturn the results in Georgia with the purpose of overturning the results of the national election. And different people participated in different capacities. And the big thing, of course, is you've got 18 defendants. It's possible all 18 are going to be like, it's ride or die with Donald Trump.
People,
Right.
I got the best people. You're all going to shut up, right?
Yes, exactly. No reason for you to say anything.
Except that I thought I won and was doing my best because I thought I won.
Just do my best. It's a lot of lawyers' bills that he would have to pay for those 18 people, plus the 30 other unindicted co-conspirators who might be speaking behind the scenes, right?
Somebody said something to somebody. Here is Donald Trump reacting to his fourth indictment on Truth Social. And here's what he had to say. A large, complex, detailed, but irrefutable report on the presidential election fraud, which took place in Georgia, is almost complete. It will be presented by me at a major news conference on 11 a.m. of Monday next week in Bedminster. Wait a second. So he's going to present it.
He has a report. He has a book report.
Look, I'm just doing the proofreading now. Okay.
Are we supposed to be making something from like the capitalization of a large and the complex and detailed and irrefutable?
I don't think so.
LCDI. LCDI, ladies and gentlemen. That's for my QAnon people. I don't know what that means. I didn't realize he's putting out a report. He's putting out a report saying that it's irrefutable the election was stolen. And based on the results of this conclusive report, all charges should be dropped against me and others. There'll be a complete exoneration. They never went after those that rigged the election. They only went after those that fought to find the riggers. They only went after those that fought to find the riggers. We're part of the rigger patrol.
I know. He went. It's a little too easy for him.
I'm going to suspend judgment. I'm going to wait until he presents evidence.
I think we need to see the report. I mean, let's be honest. And I'm going to present it where all major reports should be. The golf club.
Yes.
So that it has a lot of integrity.
Is that the same golf club that recently his ex-wife's grave is completely overrun with weeds? That's what people
I got
have
the
been
perfect
saying?
spot
Bedminster.
to put the stage.
It's going to be, well, people are going to have to play through because we're
replace your own divots
on the
in there.
ninth hole to release the report.
It's a little bumpy on the green.
Look, I don't pay the groundskeeper to go over there, okay? So fix your own divots.
Here's the thing. I mean, I don't even know why I need to say this, but let's say the report was irrefutable. Let's just for a moment say the report is irrefutable. Even armed with an irrefutable report, you'll recall there were multiple attempts to pursue a reversal of the election on a state-by-state basis through state courts. Giuliani and the whole crew were involved in them, and they were laughed out of every single court. You cannot illegally pursue a goal, even if you think that the election was actually stolen. That is not. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump really believed the election was stolen. I can really believe that Matt, took my hard-boiled eggs from the refrigerator. Really believe it. It's mine. I can't go beat him up to get it.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to do that.
They're gone.
Even if you have an irrefutable report.
I have an irrefutable report that shows that Matt took my hard-boiled eggs, for my lunch today, and therefore I beat him up.
Well, yeah, it's like there's the claim, and then there's how you go about proving it. And there were channels to deal with this, and one of those isn't inciting a riot at the Capitol when Mike Pence is trying to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just arguing about means now.
We should change the name of the show to The Irrefutable.
You guys are just tone policing me and my phone.
Tone policing. All right, we got a couple of sponsors, and then we'll be talking to Murtaza Hussain. He and Ryan Grimm did a story. They got a hold of a leaked memo written by Pakistani officials outlining a conversation they had with the U.S. ambassador to Pakistan regarding Imran Khan. We'll talk to him in a moment. He's a reporter at the Intercept who focuses on national security and foreign policy. But first, a word from one of our sponsors today. I really don't need to say much about this product. I have it here beside me literally every day I do this show. I don't think there's been a day that I have done this show in 3 or 4 years where I have not had a bottle that the bottle I got myself. That's not theirs. It is Liquid IV.
Yeah.
That's what's in, yes. It's Liquid IV in there. It is the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. And I almost felt like there's nothing new to say, but there is actually. Because now they have sugar-free flavors.
Whoa.
Years in the making, a hydration multiplier sugar-free uses a proprietary zero-sugar hydration solution with no artificial sweeteners. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. It has 8 vitamins and nutrients for everyday wellness. Liquid IV hydrates you 2 times faster than water alone. They have 3 new sugar-free flavors. Right now, white peach, green grape, lemon lime. All 3 delicious. From my experience, I still, not gonna lie, still I'm on a tangerine immunity. They have one that's immunity kick.
Yeah.
I've been on this for months and months, I think. I switched over from my green matcha for energy. Maybe because I'm feeling so hydrated, I don't need the energy anymore.
Go.
I don't know. But also, I've been playing around with the sugar-free ones, and I love them all so far. I also I love the pina colada. I mean,
Strawberry's good.
Caught in the rain.
But the amazing thing about Liquid IV, I mean, the things I love about it, obviously, it's the hydration. Gets me to drink a lot of water. I do it. It keeps me hydrated during the show. But it's also I can keep up that habit when I travel. Comes in these very convenient packs. I can bring it along with me if Saul and I are doing an outing out on the town. He's getting dehydrated. He likes to wear a hoodie too often. He sweats he just pours out sweat. I buy a bottle of water. I pour it in. Bingo, bango. So I don't have to get any of that junky stuff. It's all non-GMO, free from gluten, dairy, and soy. And a good thing about Liquid IV as a company, they believe equitable access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. They partner with leading organizations to fund and foster innovative solutions that help communities both protect their water and their futures. And Liquid IV has donated over 39 million servings in 50 countries around the world to keep people hydrated. Real people, real flavor, real hydrating. Now sugar-free. Grab your Liquid IV hydration multiplier sugar-free in bulk nationwide at Costco, or get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code MajorityRep. Not Majority Report, Majority Rep at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you use the promo code MajorityRep at liquidiv.com. Also, where are you going to get your health advice these days? Everybody seems to have some. But if you want to take a vitamin or a series of vitamins, and you want to know what's the best quality and where it's sourced, it's all about Ritual. Ritual's multivitamin for men is based on science that will help fill common nutrient gaps in the diet and level up your nutrient goals. It is an all-around win. For me, I've been taking Ritual now for at least a couple of years as well. Here's the key for me. I mean, in addition to the fact that like I want to know where my vitamins are sourced, that makes a big deal. There's a lot of products that come from different countries that have different types of problems in terms of like regulations, or maybe they're growing stuff in certain areas that used to have, pesticides or whatever it is. But the real thing for me, I mean, that's good. I feel much more confident about that. But the real thing for me is that it's on a subscription basis. So I used to take a multivitamin. I would take it, religiously day in, day out. And then all of a sudden I would finish the bottle and then I would forget to do it. And then I would break the habit and that's it. But for me, that is a big win with Ritual. Ritual is your new type of two-a-days. Helps you support heart health with omega-3 DHA to normal muscle function and normal immune function with vitamin D3. This small step can have a major impact. I will say this, my D levels, that was always the one that I was deficient in because apparently there's a prostate issue when you get to be my age. I mean, not an issue. I think cancer. There's some... Anyways, my D levels are good. I don't want to get into that. They also are... they produce like I say, clean vitamins in bioavailable forms, vegan-friendly, non-GMO, sugar-free, gluten-free, major allergen-free. And again, they're traceable. So you know where all of these elements come from. They have a minty essence in every bottle, keeps the things fresh. Essential for Men is a quality multivitamin from a company that you can actually trust. And you get this. Ritual offering our listeners 30% off during your first month. Visit Ritual, RITUAL.com/majority to start Ritual or add Essential for Men to your subscription today. We will post the link in the podcast and YouTube descriptions today. Quick break. We'll be right back with Murtaza Hussain. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Pleasure to welcome back to the program Murtaza Hussain. He's a reporter at the Intercept, focusing on national security and foreign policy. Murtaza, you and Ryan Grimm wrote a piece last week about a cable that was an internal document in the Pakistani government that was outlining a meeting with Pakistani officials and the U.S. ambassador to Pakistan, and this is back in 2022. Give us the outlines of the story here.
Yeah, actually, the meeting was between State Department officials and the Pakistani ambassador to the U.S. at that time. And this conversation has really been at the center of a political crisis in Pakistan over the past year and a half, since the removal of former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan. Mr. Khan has alleged that this document, known as a cipher internally in Pakistan, and basically a diplomatic table, showed a conversation between U.S. officials and their Pakistani counterparts where the U.S. side pressured Pakistan to remove Imran Khan at that time. There was, around this time, it was about March 2022, talk of a no confidence vote against his government. And Mr. Khan had said that U.S. officials effectively threatened Pakistan, that if you don't remove him from power in this vote, you're going to be in big trouble. And if you do remove him, we're going to have a lot of positive things to say about you. And the quote he used was, all will be forgiven, in terms of some turbulence in the relationship that then developed over his tenure. So this document has been the subject of unbelievable amounts of partisan debate and conspiracy and denials in Pakistan over the last year and a half. And just last week, for the first time, we actually were able to show what this document said. And I think in summary, what I would say is that it actually confirms a lot of what Mr. Khan has been alleging. In this document, as reported by the Pakistani side, Mr. Khan the U.S. threatened that if Mr. Khan was not removed from power, there would be a lot of problems for Pakistan. They used the term isolation. And they specifically verbatim said that if he's removed, all will be forgiven. So effectively, U.S. officials told the Pakistanis that nice country you got there, shame something happened to it. And this document, which has been, top secret inside Pakistan, and a lot of people have been threatened, allegedly killed, and disappeared over its existence, has now come to light.
All right. Before we get to the document itself, let's go back and talk about what's happened over the past year and a half or so since that no confidence vote. But prior to that, I mean, and this centers around specifically this conversation was about the neutrality that that Pakistan had, in the words of, I guess, this U.S. State Department official, aggressively pursued this neutrality. That Imran Khan had also traveled to Russia in a pre-planned trip right at the time of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So this is really ostensibly around the neutrality and the optics of Khan having traveled there. Give us a sense about Imran Khan, broadly speaking, like prior to this, aside from U.S. interest. What was Khan's relationship to the Pakistani people, and I think even from what I can read here, the Pakistani military, because that seems to be the driving force behind this, and the U.S. seems to have been sort of a partner in the project to get rid of Imran Khan.
Yeah, it's very important to note that Imran Khan's political career effectively started in opposition to U.S. drone strikes in Pakistan about a decade or so ago. He was, of course, a very famous private citizen in Pakistan. He was a philanthropist and a cricket player. And this issue of what he deemed foreign intervention in Pakistan's affairs, very harmful foreign intervention, really was what launched his political career and made him a player in Pakistani politics some years ago. And this theme in his, public statements, in his governing as prime minister, has been very consistent. He's been very averse to what he sees as Western and specifically U.S. interference in Pakistan. And he's been trying to chart what he deems a neutral course for Pakistani foreign policy. He's been alleging that other Pakistani leaders, and more obliquely some military leaders, have acted effectively as stooges of U.S. foreign policy and have not exerted meaningful independence. And his view is that this has been very harmful to Pakistanis. So when the Ukraine war came about, he stated very publicly that we're going to be neutral in this conflict. We need to buy energy from Russia. We also need to have a good relationship with Europe and the United States, but we're not going to side with any one side. We're not going to join any alliance. And it's not dissimilar to what India has done. India has also taken a similar, very resolutely neutral policy on Ukraine. Imran Khan said more or less the same. And the trip to Moscow, it does appear, as he said, to have been planned beforehand as opposed to being planned intentionally on the eve of the war, but certainly antagonized the U.S. side, as we see in this cable. And one thing that's amazing about this cable is that actually we had no idea that this dispute specifically was about Ukraine. People have described the context of this cable before. They've said that, yeah, maybe it was problematic, maybe it was threatening, but no one knew specifically it was about U.S. anger over Pakistan's neutral position in this conflict. So it really was consistent with Khan's whole political career, where he's been an advocate very vocally of what he deems of, Pakistani independence in foreign affairs. And then the same irritation and anger of U.S. officials was about that stance. So actually, the revelation of the cable confirmed a lot of things people have been saying for many, many years, or alleging for many years, that this neutral, non-aligned policy of Pakistan is at the core of its dispute with the United States.
When I read this memo, and the memo is really interesting because it is an internal Pakistani memo. So there is no I don't know. I guess there could be interagency reasons in which to sort of hide true intentions and whatnot, but that would be, it seems odd. But there was one part where the author of this memo is, I told Don being Don Liu, the State Department official, I told Don Liu that we had seen his defense of the Indian position on the Ukraine crisis. Like you say, it's also neutrality. During the recently held Senate subcommittee hearing on U.S.-India relations, it seemed that the U.S. was applying different criteria for India and Pakistan. Don responded that U.S. lawmakers' strong feelings about India's abstentions in the UN the Security Council and the UNGA came out clearly during the hearing. I said that from the hearing, it appeared that the U.S. expected more from India than Pakistan, yet it appeared to be more concerned about Pakistan's position. In other words, there is a sense, at least by the author of this, who was speaking to Don Liu, that it doesn't really track that you're this upset about our behavior when your expectations of India are higher and they've delivered the exact same thing. But your criticism of Pakistan, I mean, it appears to me that part of the U.S. position that this is about Ukraine is convenient on some level.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because India has resisted a lot of public pressure and I'm sure private pressure to align on a certain side in the Ukraine conflict. It's still buying Russian oil. It's not condemning really in forthright terms the invasion. It is charting what you could say a non-aligned course in the conflict. And this goes back to a point you made earlier about the role of the Pakistani military. The Pakistani military is the most powerful force in Pakistani politics. It's even if they're civilian leaders put up front, inevitably they're pulling strings. And this tension between the civilian governing of Pakistan and the military governing has been the core sort of tension, you could say, in society since its independence 70 or so years ago. And the Pakistani military is very dependent on U.S. support, economic support, political patronage. They want to have a very close relationship with the U.S. military. So it becomes a very effective lever on which to exert pressure on Pakistan over issues like this of foreign relations that does not exist in India. So if the U.S. wanted to go to the Indian military and signal, hey, maybe Modi or whoever else is in power is not doing what we want, you should do something about that, they don't really have the ability to do so. The Indian military is very firmly nationalized by the Indian state, whereas the Pakistani military is much more autonomous and values its relationship with the United States a lot more. It depends on it for economic purposes on a very baseline level. So, if the United States is frustrated with India, which I think it may be, they have limited options how to express that frustration. Whereas in Pakistan, because of the military, because of its strange role in Pakistani society, they can make their frustration much more, effectively felt in Pakistani society. And it's other countries. Egypt is a similar example like that. It's the role of militarization of politics, which has these unfortunate consequences of reducing independence.
Do we know? I mean, do you have a sense? I should say. I mean, because this is true. Like the U.S. military is famously sort of like has very close relationships with the Egyptian military. A lot of training of a lot of Egyptian, for instance, the military personnel have been trained in the U.S. I don't know if it's as many Pakistani military, but there's clearly very close relationship. Do you have a sense of which way this goes? I mean, and it's not mutually exclusive, but I mean, you've just expressed it in a way that the U.S. has more leverage because of its relationship with the military in Pakistan over Pakistani politics. But I also wonder if there's a relationship between Imran Khan and the Pakistani military where the pressure goes the other way, where you've got the U.S. State Department meeting with Pakistani officials days before the actual no confidence vote takes place. It's already in the air. Some of this feels to me like the U.S. coming in and saying, we're the final piece in the puzzle. Like we're the straw or straws that are going to break the camel's back in this instance. And that may have also come from encouragement from the Pakistani military, which my understanding is their relationship with Khan had deteriorated.
That's very aptly put. So when this meeting took place, Imran Khan was already in a very tense position via his political rivals and the military, and they were mulling this no confidence vote beforehand. What I think happened, rather than the U.S. Ejecting him from power in a moment he was very secure, they effectively weighed in very strongly in an internal political debate inside Pakistan, which was already going on. And they put their weight on the scale very, very forthrightly on one side. And the way that, Pakistan works, and I can think Egypt and other countries in similar situations work, is that the U.S. is effectively, in all but name, a part of the governing compact of the country. And their vote goes a very long way. So Donald Lu and the State Department could have said, Pakistani internal affairs are a matter for Pakistan. We hope for this relationship, X, Y, and Z. They didn't say that. They said that we have a very strong preference of who the next prime minister is. That it would not be this person. If it is, you're going to suffer X, Y, and Z consequences. And if he's not, then we'll have a more positive relationship. So they didn't hold back from expressing their own position and their own decisive view on how Pakistani politics should be structured. And unfortunately, it goes very much back to the same thing that Khan has been criticizing, which is lack of independence of Pakistani institutions, lack of sovereignty of Pakistan as a result of this relationship. The irony, of course, as critics of Khan will correctly point out, is that his original political rise was sponsored by the military, and it was actually supported by the military out of the belief that he would be effectively a palatable face to the public for their own rule. But what happened is that he effectively rebelled against that relationship. He rebelled against it. Now he's sitting in prison for going up against the same military, which had, in the outset, been a sponsor of his own rise.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How does his 3-year prison sentence fit into this? I mean, I know that based on your piece, he's still quite popular within Pakistan. And yet he's has a 3-year prison sentence that he's, I guess, in the process of appealing. But what's the sense from you of the validity of those charges and how this plays into the political realities you're talking about?
And we should just say, as you answer that, the charges in the prison sentence come just months after there was an assassination attempt on him, as well. I mean, so there's clearly like people who are hostile to him but your thoughts on the charges and the prison sentence.
Yeah, the charges and the prison sentence come at the tail end, or maybe it's not the tail end, but they come following months of very extreme pressure on Khan and his supporters and people in the press who seem to be aligned with him, his political allies. Many of them have been arrested, some have been killed. put in jail. Khan himself, as you mentioned, was almost killed in an assassination attempt. So these charges are not viewed as very apolitical inside Pakistan. They're viewed specifically for one purpose: to prevent him from contesting elections expected for later this year and potentially end his political career entirely. In addition to a 3-year sentence, they also have a 5-year ban from participation in politics. So Khan is the most popular politician in Pakistan, probably by a long shot, I would say. If he were allowed to contest these elections that were coming up, or expected to come up, he would undoubtedly win. And as a result of that, they need to get him out of the picture as expeditiously as possible. And this has come a number of ways. They've arrested and forced many people who were part of his party to denounce him in public after very North Korea style, public presentations where they are arrested and then come out and give a speech saying we're no longer a part of politics, we're leaving politics entirely, and we're sorry for taking part in the first place. Many cases like this have taken place. People I mentioned have disappeared in prison, accusations of torture. A very prominent journalist who was aligned with Imran Khan's party was killed in an assassination in Kenya a few months ago. Another has disappeared into custody in recent months and alleged to have either been tortured in custody or killed. No one's heard from him since. So as a result of that, we've seen a tremendous amount of pressure effectively trying to wipe out the most popular political party and most popular political leader in Pakistan by the military. And I think it's the most repressive environment Pakistan's probably seen in many, many years, if ever. And it's all coming on the back of the Pakistani military, its civilian allies, and with subtle or not so subtle cosign from the United States. I'll mention that CENTCOM chief Michael Kurilla or Eric Kurilla was in Pakistan a few weeks ago, meeting with the head of the Pakistani military. He issued a statement, lauding their cooperation and made no mention of the political context going on at the moment. So it seems very clear that the U.S. is, if not supporting, at least green lighting was taking place in Pakistan.
You mentioned not by name, but the killing of Arshad Sharif in Kenya. He had been, I guess it was also, he had fled Pakistan at one point. He had been writing a lot of stuff about the military and about this case of Khan, and also the existence of this memo, which you guys got handed, and you write, you give at least some indication of your source. It was a military source. And part of their justification for leaking it to you. Tell us a little bit about Sharif in terms of like what kind of press there were. I know that there was not an investigative report, but a fact-finding report. I've skimmed it briefly. It's 600 pages. I guess just the first 100 or so are really actually substantive, and the rest are, I guess, forensics. But it makes it clear that the official stories that came out of Kenya from the Kenyan officials are full of holes. As to, like, they claim that he was shot because his driver ran through a checkpoint outside of Nairobi, but the driver was not shot. The passenger was shot. And it also appears that from his autopsy that there's indications of torture. What can you tell us more about Sharif?
Yeah, his killing is so clouded in intrigue at this point now. I can tell you what people widely allege or believed to have happened and are saying publicly about it as well too, is that Mr. Sharif had to flee Pakistan because of the threats from the military, as he said, because of his reporting on what was going on with the military in Khan at that time. And specifically about this cable, which he's believed to have been reporting on at the time he was killed. He fled to Kenya for his safety, and he was killed in this incident in Kenya thereafter. What many allege is that, in fact, Mr. Sharif was assassinated by the military while abroad, and the manner in which he was killed may have involved some exploitation of domestic corruption in Kenya and law enforcement to wipe out a political rival by the Pakistani military. I can't confirm these reports because, as I said, they're still a subject matter of debate, but it certainly does seem very interesting that he'd been under so much threat He fled because of that threat, immediately was killed in this shooting incident after arriving in Kenya not long thereafter. And he would only be one of many people who've either died or been detained during this ongoing crackdown, which is still playing out at the moment. Another thing, Imran Khan, another Pakistani journalist, he disappeared at the hands of the military some months ago. No one's heard from him since. There were denials even afterwards that he'd been in custody, which is one of the worst things you could hear if someone's been denied when law enforcement and authorities start saying, actually, we don't have him. And, some foreign observers have said that either has been tortured or killed in custody. Again, it's not totally confirmed, but these are the kind of things that are going on right now in terms of suppression of the press in Pakistan, which is also why this document cannot be reported in Pakistan. It had to be reported in the United States by American journalists because there's simply no longer the capability of doing so there domestically because of this pressure, which is quite tragic because Pakistan, despite all its problems, it had a very vigorous and lively press for many, many years. And that has effectively been silenced now through fear and intimidation, as we're seeing play out at the moment.
Just getting back to the motivation of the U.S. here, that is, again, the memo outlines exactly what Donald Liu, again, a State Department official, had said to this Pakistani contingency. What other reasons would they have to have issue with Khan? Look, I personally would like to see Joe Biden say to Israeli officials, you're going to be very isolated unless you change your policies in the West Bank. Benjamin Netanyahu, nobody's going to welcome him to the everything that Liu articulates in here are things that I would like our government to say, frankly, to Israel, recipient of a lot more aid, specifically than Pakistan, obviously. But it is the issue. It seems to me is less like what is, but over why the why are they saying this? Governments are going to say we have a preference for what you do as a country all the time. It seems to me, but to say we have an issue with your neutrality. When India has the same stance, and India may be more strategically necessary for us than them not to be neutral in this conflict, it seems to me like there's another thing at play here, and it has to be one of two things, although they're not mutually exclusive. The U.S. has problems with Khan being prime minister. And they're other than, or not just limited to, the neutrality, and the Pakistani military has a problem with Khan, and they are using the U.S. and the U.S. is using. There's a certain reciprocity there.
Yeah, I think it's a good way of thinking about it is that in light, the U.S. has a reciprocity relationship with Imran Khan. But the institutional levers will be different, let's say, in Israel and Pakistan, specifically because of this relationship with the Pakistani military, who are really the real rulers of Pakistan. Regardless of on paper, that's actually the reality of it. And this message was effectively a message directed to them. And some people have mentioned that, if the U.S. want to do regime change in Pakistan, why would it send Donald Liu and another State Department guy do it? Why not some other mechanism of doing so? I think that what's actually more important is less even than what Mr. Liu said or meant to say, but how it was received on the Pakistani side. And one thing this cable allows us to see for the first time, and I've read many intelligence cables now from different intelligence agencies around the world, classified cables, I think at least 3 or 4 now. And one thing you all see at the bottom of any cable is an assessment section, an assessment by the person filing the cable. And the Pakistani ambassador in this cable, he filed something very interesting. He's like, Don Liu could not have said what he was saying so stridently unless it was coming from the White House.
Right.
So it must be coming from the White House. The Pakistani side determined based on what his message was and how forthright it was. And they acted with great urgency thereafter. We saw a lot of things change immediately on the Pakistani side. The vote measure of no confidence moved up to the next day after the vote. A few weeks later, General Bajwa, who was the head of the armed forces at that time, was going on public and contradicting publicly Imran Khan's stance on the Ukraine conflict specifically. And so a lot of things changed very quickly, and that's because of this sort of sordid relationship the U.S. has with the military, that they're able to direct things to different power centers in Pakistani society. And I'm reminded of a very famous meeting between Saddam Hussein and the U.S. diplomat before the 1991 Gulf War, April Glaspie, when Saddam Hussein asked Mrs. Glaspie, do you have an opinion on what we do in our conflict with Kuwait? And she said something to the effect of, we have no opinion on inter-Arab conflicts, that's your business. They interpreted that as meaning that we can invade Kuwait and you don't mind. Right. Whereas that may not have been what they meant. And it may not have been that Mr. Liu meant to say that you better take him out or else we're going to have big problems. He didn't kind of say that verbatim, but he may have had give him the benefit of that. He may have some different purpose. He didn't want to affect regime change in Pakistan. They certainly seem to interpret it that way. They interpret it that way, and they're very anxious about what the U.S. position is, the Pakistani military and other elites inside Pakistan. And they acted based on that interpretation. We can see even now in the assessment section, now that this document's been released, the public viewing, that they did take it that way. So, regardless of what the State Department meant, they had this effect. And I think it's a foreseeable effect given the history of the U.S.-Pakistan relationship.
I'm sorry. We've certainly seen a lot of attempts by the Pakistani government and military to silence anybody who's in any way sort of digging around in this and in basically the turn of events that took place.
Totally. And another thing is the new government has been in power for a year and a half now, and Imran Khan's still been talking about this cipher document. They've been responding to it, dismissing it, saying all types of things. They could have declassified it at any time and released it to the public and said, here's what it says, whatever it says has nothing to do with the regime change or anything like that. They didn't. They did the opposite of going to any extent possible, suppressing it, including using violence against people reporting on it. And now that it was revealed, it kind of doesn't look very good on them. Doesn't look very good on them. And if it is benign, as some defenders of the government claim, it doesn't really make sense if they would have taken this option. They would have released it a long time ago. And I think it's because it's not very benign. And regardless of what the U.S. meant to say, they know what it shows on the Pakistani side. It shows sequence of events triggered or beginning with this cipher, which is a lot closer to what Imran Khan has been saying for the past year and a half than is what his opposition is saying.
Could the United States' attempts to cozy up to the Modi government have anything to do with their posture towards Pakistan or Khan in particular? Modi was just in the U.S. Biden was being very publicly accepting of him, and I'm not sure what Modi and Imran Khan's relationship has been, but let me know what you think of that theory.
It's difficult to say because I don't want to say that Khan and India's relationship was particularly bad. Unfortunately, India and Pakistan have a negative relationship going back many years, spanning multiple administrations. But I would say actually, if there's any institution in Pakistan which has been the most invested in conflict with India, it's been the Pakistani military and intelligence service. They've been at the forefront of. They control foreign policy, they control defense policy, and they are in charge of any hawkish or aggressive policy towards India, which has existed either now or in the past. So the weakening of civilian rule actually strengthens those forces. And whether it's in India's interest to see Pakistan more unstable or weak or military ruled, it's kind of difficult to say. There's different competing camps within India with different philosophies about that subject. But I don't think that Khan was particularly hostile to India in the Pakistani context. And nor do I think this new government is particularly favorable to India. I think that in many cases, India is sort of in a similar situation to Pakistan. They're trying to resist external pressure to take a side in this conflict, or in any conflict, really, not dealing with their interests. The benefit that they have is they have institutions which are more capable of resistance. And, whatever Don Lu actually said to me very interesting in this cable, not reported before, is that he expected that after Indian students were evacuated from Ukraine, there were many thousands of them stranded in Ukraine at the start of the war, India would change its policy and become more aligned with the West on this conflict. And that never happened. Students were evacuated. India still as resistant and you could say obstinate towards the U.S. wishes as it had been at the time. So I think it actually shows that how institutions and the strength or weakness of them can have create wildly different outcomes in two countries, and with India and Pakistan being great examples.
Murtaza Hussain, reporter at the Intercept, National Security, Foreign Policy. Great reporting for you and then Ryan Grimm, and really appreciate you coming on and walking us through it. We'll put a link to the piece. The memo itself is really fascinating reading for someone who doesn't read a lot of these internal documents, and to get a sense of how how Pakistan receives this, whatever these words are, and how it's parsed. Just very very fascinating in that regard. Really appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Guess we didn't get to as much news during the.
Fascinating story.
It is a fascinating story.
I think because we had Grimm on recently, I've been getting like a bunch of new followers from Pakistan. Like a dozen a day.
Interesting.
I'm not
Are
sure.
you involved in any dealings there? Or?
No, I just feel like because you guys haven't noticed this at all.
I don't notice anything on Twitter anymore.
I
It doesn't even freaking work.
I think it's better than ever. I don't know what you guys.
If you told me I had 1 million followers now, I wouldn't have any idea. But I know I don't.
The one thing is, it definitely, if you're not verified, engagement's down. That's the only thing I've noticed. 100%.
Not verified. Engagement seems fine on mine.
I'll tell you what I learned recently on Twitter, though. I'm Jewish.
Oh, really?
Yes, a lot of people in the replies have pointed out to me that I'm a Jew.
That is the benefit of a communications platform. You learn something new every day.
I keep learning the same thing every day, actually, when I log onto Twitter.
Redundancy is important.
I'm a Jew.
Information process, and you need to repeat a message sometimes a lot to get it to sink in.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did notice about Twitter, and I've been off it a lot more lately, but when I posted there, because I've been down, I've posted twice about picketing. On the SAG-AFTRA. I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA. I think people know it. And I get the weirdest sort of crew. It takes about 12 hours, but then all of a sudden I get a lot of like very low count conservatives, and they're real people. I'm quite convinced they're real people, but they all come in like, how did they find I don't, I've posted stuff like about like a whole host of conservative, and I've never ever get the amount of small time conservative pushback, weird, like anti-union, anti-SAG-AFTRA, and it really feels like to me, and I have no basis for this other than the preponderance of people who signed up for Twitter like in March of 2023, but that this feels like a campaign that is going after people who are supportive of the strike. That's what it feels like.
That would not be shocking.
Now, I would be shocked if some of these reputable companies would actually pay for a third-party service that would hire people to tweet about you. I would be shocked.
You're wondering if the producers who are making it part of their bargaining that they're going to use robots to replace their workers might be using some sort of bot.
I don't think they're bots.
I don't know. I know what you're talking about, but I think, like, what do you do? What do you use it to signify that they're real? That their timeline?
Yeah. I'm going into their timeline.
I feel like they can simulate that stuff now.
It's possible, but this seems to be like it seems to be a lot of reply guys.
Right. But all you have to do is have a few that you model off of, and they can just like set up a few like replies saying, "Oh, look at me doing this supportive tweet of Vivek Ramaswamy," or something. Or even like, I mean, the weird ones are when they're like entertainment on their main page.
Well, why would you, but if you were going to have bots, why would you have them do conservative stuff.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I see somewhere it's like their main feed is them like retweeting entertainment stuff.
Yes,
and then like the replies are all like conservative.
Yeah. But that's not what I've noticed. But who knows? Folks, we got a lot of stuff to get to in the fun half. I just want to remind you, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the free half free of commercials, but you also get the fun half, which is so fun. In fact, it's so fun, it's illegal for me to talk about. Because I'd get a RICO charge. JoinTheMajorityReport.com. Also, don't forget JustCoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code MAJORITY. Get 10% off. I should tell you right now, I am off for a bit. Going to the beach. And I'm going to hope to join the coverage of the first debate.
Oh, gosh, right.
Remotely.
Yeah.
But that's going to be happening. So Emma will give you more deets.
Is that next week?
Next week.
Wednesday.
More deets as we go. Speaking of Emma.
Yeah.
What's happening on ESPN?
Well, we spoke about kind of the bombshell story of Michael Oher coming out and speaking about how the... did you ever see the movie The Blind Side?
I did, actually. I've watched that many times on a plane, I feel like.
It's a horrible white savior movie, but it gets worse. Apparently,
I cried.
Well,
it's with Sandra Bullock, right?
I mean, it's there to make you cry. Yes.
I'm joking.
You didn't cry?
In fact, if I watch a commercial on an airplane, I cry. I think it has something to do with the altitude.
That makes sense. I mean, I cried everything regardless, but it's still a bad film. That's where
they like fostered a
wait for it. They didn't actually adopt him. They told him they were adopting him right after he claims in a court filing, right after he turned 18, they had him sign a conservatorship, which they said was the same as adoption.
It's the same thing, yeah.
And he didn't make a cent from that movie, and they paid out a bunch of money to themselves and their kids from the optioning of the book, from the movie, and he didn't make any of that money.
And apparently hated the way he was represented in the film.
And he wasn't like illiterate like they claim
Right.
in the film. Yeah, it's wild.
Michael Lewis in trouble.
It's a crazy story. But like, conservatorship is what Britney Spears was in. No control over your finances. They just sucked him dry. Leeches.
Can I do that with my kid? I mean, if I do that, like it's just...
Well, you'd have to prove to some judge that the kid was not able to, function in the same way. So there's probably some racist undertones. But regardless, we spoke about that on ESPN.
That's a crazy story.
Crazy. But not shocking given the tenor, honestly, of it is shocking, but when you think about it a little more, not terribly shocking. We also, we spoke about, gosh, what did we speak about? Sorry. This is bad. Ron Rivera undermining the enemy and college football realignment. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
Matt, Left Reckoning.
Left Reckoning tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern. David Griscom did a conversation with a conservative, Sohrab Armari, on who's basically saying he wants New Deal liberalism back, which is interesting. And we're having Ben Burgess on in the post game to talk about
what makes him conservative.
He's a conservative. He apparently was. I'm blocked by him on Twitter.
He's like
that's why Griscom had to do it.
No,
I won't show up.
He's almost like a Ross Douthat level moralist in some.
No, I would have done it. And I actually don't know why I'm blocked by him. It was probably he transitioned to Roman Catholicism, so I think I probably made fun of him for that for 4 years ago. But they could only record it yesterday, and I thought I was going to be gone this week. But but we'll get into it. But yeah, basically he was a Trotskyist in high school, and then part of his conversion to Roman Catholicism, which is again where I raise my eyebrow. He basically thinks that private companies have too much power in the economy. So him and Griscom had an interesting chat.
There you go. All right, folks. Lux. The phenomenon you're describing are not bots. It's called astroturfing. One person controls multiple sock puppets, numbering in the hundreds, all with the individual personalization to give the appearance of being real. It's a very common practice in marketing going back 20 plus years, but it's all over the place on Twitter. This is what most modern marketing firms is very similar to what the Russian Internet Research Agency did in 2015. Same thing happened with Gamergate in 2014. Look up the history of Microsoft astroturfing. Astroturfing? Astroturfing.
Yeah.
And FUD. Fear, uncertainty, doubt.
Yeah, but Elon said he was getting rid of all the bots, So.
See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males...
Psych. Fuck them.
Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. All lives matter.
Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on! Fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday! Happy birthday to me, Jew boy!
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on! Come on! Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, Majority Report. Mike from Bavaria, where is Saul? What secrets are you trying to hide? Saul will be in here probably the first week of September. Because, of course, school starts on a Thursday.
That's odd. That is odd.
Why wouldn't you start it on a Thursday? Of course. You start school on a Thursday. That way, it's impossible to send the kid to camp. There are no camps that are doing anything the first week in September. It's annoying. Rusty, crusty mattress, but he'll come in